Commander Vex Taloran stood at the observation deck of the Galactic Military Academy, his 4 eyes scanning the newest batch of recruits with the enthusiasm of someone watching paint dry on a particularly boring wall. The Academy had seen better days, honestly. Ever since the Galactic Council decided that diversity and inclusion meant accepting cadets from every backwater planet in the known galaxy, standards had, well, let's just say, they'd become more flexible. "Sir," his aide, Lieutenant Crix Voron, approached with a datapad clutched in his webbed hands. "The human delegation has arrived." Vex's mandibles clicked in what could generously be called amusement. "Ah, yes, the humans. Tell me again why we're wasting Academy resources on a species that only discovered faster-than-light travel 3 cycles ago?" "Political necessity, sir. The Council wants to. How did they put it? Foster interspecies cooperation." "Right." Vex's voice dripped with more sarcasm than a leaky faucet drips water. "And I suppose next they'll want us to train those gas-breathing Metharians from Sector 7. What's next? Accepting houseplants as tactical officers?" The viewing screen flickered to life, showing the Academy's main landing bay. A modest transport vessel, barely larger than a shuttle, touched down with all the grace of a drunk Vorthan trying to parallel park. The humans had arrived. Out stepped 5 beings that looked, to Vex's trained eye, about as militarily impressive as a wet paper towel. They were small, averaging barely 2 meters in height, with only 2 arms, 2 legs, and ridiculously fragile-looking skin. No natural armor, no protective shells, no venomous spines, nothing. They might as well have been walking target practice. "Look at them," Vex muttered, watching as the humans gathered their equipment. "They move like they're made of glass and hope." Leading the human group was Captain Maya Rodriguez, though Vex couldn't be bothered to remember her name properly. To him, she was just the pink one with the hair. Behind her followed Sergeant Jake Thompson, Private Lisa Chang, Corporal Alex Petrov, and Private Sam Williams. 5 humans who, according to their files, represented Earth's finest military personnel. Vex had seen more intimidating things in his breakfast cereal. "Sir," Crix whispered, "should we prepare the standard welcome protocol?" "Oh, absolutely. Let's roll out the red carpet for our new friends from the Milky Way's discount bin." Vex's sarcasm could have corroded hull plating. "I'm sure they'll provide endless entertainment for the real cadets." The Academy's training grounds buzzed with activity as news of the human arrival spread faster than gossip at a Zentaurian tea party. Cadets from across the galaxy had gathered to witness what many considered either a historical moment or a cosmic joke, depending on your perspective. Cadet Zor Villeth, a towering Kragarian with natural body armor that could stop a plasma blast, nudged his companion. 10 credits says the humans don't make it past basic orientation." "You're on," replied Cadet Nex Siler, a Thorvandian whose acidic saliva could melt through titanium. "But I give them at least a week before they cry for their mothers and request transfer back to their little blue planet." The laughter that rippled through the gathered cadets sounded like a convention of hyenas having the best day of their lives. Captain Rodriguez led her team into the main briefing hall, where hundreds of alien cadets sized them up like predators, evaluating their next meal. The humans maintained their composure, though Vex noticed the slight tension in their shoulders, the way their eyes constantly swept the room for threats. Interesting. At least they weren't completely oblivious to danger. "Welcome, humans, to the Galactic Military Academy," Commander Vex announced, his voice carrying across the hall with practiced authority. "I am Commander Taloran, and I will be overseeing your integration into our program." The pause before integration hung in the air like a bad smell. "You are here," Vex continued, "because the Galactic Council, in their infinite wisdom, has decided that every species deserves a chance to contribute to galactic security. Even species whose greatest military achievement appears to be throwing sharp sticks at each other." More laughter erupted from the alien cadets. Captain Rodriguez's jaw tightened, but she remained silent. "Now, I understand that humans have their own unique approaches to warfare. I'm told you're quite fond of something called guerrilla tactics, which I assume involves actual guerrillas." Vex's mandibles clicked in amusement. How delightfully primitive. Sergeant Thompson took a half-step forward, but Rodriguez's slight gesture held him back. "Your training will begin immediately," Vex announced. "First, we'll need to evaluate your current capabilities. Standard procedure includes weapons assessment, tactical analysis, and physical conditioning tests. I'm sure you'll find our standards challenging." The weapons assessment took place in Training Base 7, a massive facility equipped with targets, obstacle courses, and enough firepower to level a small moon. Alien cadets lined the observation galleries, eager to witness what they expected to be a spectacular display of human incompetence. Cadet Crix Thorndale, whose species could naturally see in 17 different spectrums, leaned forward in anticipation. "This should be good. I heard humans still use chemical propellants in their weapons. How charmingly antique." "Chemical propellants?" Cadet Bryn Sextol's mandibles clicked in disbelief. "What's next? Flintlock rifles and muskets. Do they load their weapons with actual gunpowder?" The laughter was infectious, spreading through the galleries like wildfire. Down on the training floor, the humans unpacked their equipment. Standard-issue assault rifles, sidearms, and what appeared to be various support weapons. To alien eyes accustomed to plasma rifles, particle beams, and molecular disruptors, the human weapons looked like museum pieces. "Are those projectile weapons?" Instructor Varn Kasek asked, his tone suggesting he'd just discovered something unpleasant on his shoe. "Yes, sir," Captain Rodriguez replied evenly. "These are standard Earth military firearms." "Fascinating. I suppose when you haven't developed proper energy weapons, you make do with what you have." Kasek's condescension was thick enough to cut with a knife. "Very well. Proceed with your demonstration." The first test involved accuracy at various ranges. Standard targets, nothing too challenging for cadets who'd been training with advanced weaponry since childhood. Cadet Vex Morlane, a sectarian with enhanced targeting organs, scoffed. "Watch this, everyone. The humans are about to show us how their ancestors hunted mammoth." The humans took their positions. Captain Rodriguez raised her rifle, a weapon that looked laughably crude compared to the sleek plasma rifles used by Academy cadets. She sighted down the barrel, adjusted her stance, and fired. The projectile struck the target dead center. A few alien cadets stopped laughing. Rodriguez fired again. Another bullseye, then another. Sergeant Thompson stepped up next, followed by Private Chung. Each shot found its mark with mechanical precision. The laughter in the galleries began to fade, replaced by murmurs of confusion. "Lucky shots," Cadet Thorndale muttered, though his confidence was wavering. "Anyone can hit stationary targets." As if hearing him, Instructor Kasek activated the moving targets. Holographic enemies began materializing and darting across the training floor, simulating a real combat scenario. This was where the humans would finally show their limitations. Private Petrov shouldered his weapon and began firing. The distinctive crack of chemical propellant echoed through the bay as his bullets found target after target. Moving, dodging, appearing behind cover. It didn't matter. Each shot was calculated, precise, lethal. The alien cadets fell silent. Private Williams stepped forward with what appeared to be a larger weapon. Humans called it a sniper rifle. The target appeared at maximum range, nearly a kilometer away. An impossible shot for most species, even with advanced optics. Williams settled into position, controlled his breathing, and squeezed the trigger. The distant target exploded in a shower of sparks. "Impossible," whispered Cadet Seiler. "That target was beyond effective range for projectile weapons." "Maybe their weapons are more advanced than they appear," suggested Cadet Morlane, though his voice lacked conviction. Commander Vex, watching from the command booth, felt the first stirrings of, not quite concern, but definitely interest. These humans were performing better than expected. Much better. The next test involved rapid target acquisition, multiple threats appearing simultaneously, requiring split-second decisions and flawless execution. Private Chang drew her sidearm, a compact weapon that looked like a toy compared to alien military hardware. Targets began spawning randomly throughout the training area. What happened next defied explanation. Chang moved like liquid lightning, her weapon tracking targets with impossible speed and accuracy. She didn't just hit the threats, she prioritized them, engaging the most dangerous first, using cover effectively, reloading without losing sight of her surroundings. In 30 seconds, she'd eliminated 27 targets without missing a single shot. The alien cadets stared in stunned silence. "How?" Cadet Violet's voice was barely a whisper. "How is that possible with such primitive technology?" "The weapon has no auto-targeting system," observed Cadet Sextol, his analytical mind struggling to process what he'd witnessed. "No predictive algorithms, no neural interface. She's doing all the calculations manually." "Manually?" Violet's mandibles clicked in confusion. "You mean she's actually aiming those shots herself, without computer assistance?" The implications were staggering. Every alien military force relied heavily on technological augmentation. Enhanced targeting systems, predictive software, computer-assisted aiming. The idea of achieving such precision through biological capability alone was unsettling. Commander Vex leaned forward in his observation chair. "Kasich, increase the difficulty." "Sir, the current setting is already at cadet maximum." "I said, increase it." The training scenario shifted. Instead of individual targets, the humans now faced coordinated enemy formations, suppression fire, and complex tactical situations. This wasn't just marksmanship. This was warfare. Captain Rodriguez gestured to her team, and they moved into formation without a word. No radio communication, no digital coordination systems, just hand signals and what appeared to be practiced teamwork. They advanced through the simulation like ghosts, using terrain that other species couldn't even perceive as cover. Their weapons barked constantly, each shot purposeful and devastating. They flanked enemies, created crossfires, and executed tactical maneuvers that Academy instructors spent months teaching to alien cadets. "Impossible," breathed Instructor Kasich. "They're using advanced tactics with primitive equipment." But it wasn't the equipment that was advanced. It was the humans themselves. Sergeant Thompson suppressed an enemy position while Private Chang flanked from the left. Captain Rodriguez coordinated the assault, while Private Petrov provided overwatch. Private Williams eliminated high-value targets from concealed positions. They moved like a single organism, each member anticipating the other's actions with uncanny precision. The alien cadets watched in growing amazement, and, for some, the first. Stirrings of something they'd never expected to feel regarding humans: respect. "Sir?" Lieutenant Crix appeared beside Commander Vex, his voice hushed with awe. Their accuracy rate is 97%. 97%? Vex's mandibles clicked involuntarily. That's higher than most graduating cadets achieve with full technological assistance. Yes, sir. And they're doing it with weapons that require manual operation for every function. Down in the training bay, the humans had completed the scenario. Not only completed it, they'd achieved a perfect score in record time. The silence in the observation galleries was deafening. Cadet Thorndale finally found his voice. What exactly are we dealing with here? It was a question that would haunt the Galactic Military Academy for days to come. These weren't the primitive, bumbling creatures they'd expected. These were predators, evolved and refined by millennia of warfare on a planet that seemed determined to kill everything living on it. Commander Vex stood slowly, his four eyes fixed on the humans below as they checked their weapons and prepared for the next test. The sarcasm was gone from his voice when he spoke. Lieutenant, I want a full analysis of human military capabilities. Everything we can find. Sir, shouldn't we focus on their current performance? Vex's gaze never wavered from the humans. Crix, I have a feeling we've barely scratched the surface of what these beings are capable of. And, frankly, that terrifies me more than I'm willing to admit. The humans were packing their equipment, discussing their performance in quiet, professional tones. They seemed completely unaware of the shock they'd caused throughout the academy. But Captain Rodriguez caught Commander Vex's eye through the observation window and smiled. It wasn't a friendly smile. It was the smile of an apex predator who just realized that everyone else had seriously underestimated her species. And that, Commander Vex realized with growing dread, was when things were about to get very, very interesting. 3 days had passed since the weapons demonstration that left the entire academy questioning everything they thought they knew about humans. Commander Vex had spent those days reviewing footage, reading reports, and trying to convince himself that what he'd witnessed was some kind of elaborate hoax. It wasn't working. Sir, Lieutenant Crix burst into his office without knocking, which was either a sign of extreme urgency or complete loss of military discipline. You need to see this immediately. Vex looked up from his third cup of Raxian stimulant brew, his patience wearing thinner than atmosphere on a dying planet. Unless the humans have somehow conquered the Academy overnight, I'm not interested. Sir, they've requested permission to demonstrate what they call advanced combat techniques. Advanced? Vex's mandibles clicked with bitter amusement. What's advanced about pointing a metal tube and hoping projectiles hit something? Crix activated his holographic display, showing a formal request submitted through proper channels. They claimed their initial demonstration only covered basic marksmanship skills. They want to show tactical applications. The words hung in the air like a bad omen. Down in the Academy's main gymnasium, word had spread faster than a computer virus through a poorly protected network. Every cadet, instructor, and staff member who could manufacture an excuse to be there had gathered. The humans stood in the center of the massive space, looking remarkably calm for beings who'd become the Academy's primary topic of conversation. Cadet Moore Drexel, a hegemony warrior whose species had conquered half their home system before achieving spaceflight, nudged his companion. I heard they want to demonstrate something called close quarters combat. Close quarters? Cadet Rix Voltan's confusion was evident in his voice. You mean they actually fight at melee range? With their soft, unarmored bodies? Apparently, though after what we saw 3 days ago, I'm not making any assumptions. The gathered crowd buzzed with speculation and nervous laughter. Most alien species had evolved past the need for physical combat. when you had energy shields, powered armor, and weapons that could vaporize enemies from orbit, hand-to-hand fighting seemed as relevant as using stone tools. Commander Vex entered the gymnasium with all the enthusiasm of someone attending his own execution. He'd considered canceling this demonstration, but curiosity had won over common sense. "Attention!" His voice boomed across the space. "The humans have requested an opportunity to demonstrate additional combat capabilities. I remind everyone that these are still untested alien techniques, and we should observe with appropriate scientific interest." Captain Rodriguez stepped forward, her team flanking her in loose formation. "Thank you, Commander. We'd like to begin with basic hand-to-hand combat principles." Hand-to-hand combat? Instructor Kasek couldn't hide his incredulity. Against whom? Surely you don't expect our cadets to engage in such primitive. Actually, Rodriguez interrupted smoothly, we were hoping some of your cadets might volunteer as opponents. The gymnasium fell silent, except for the hum of life support systems. Cadet Drexel straightened up, his warrior pride stung by the implication. "I'll volunteer. This should be educational." Drexel stood nearly 3 meters tall, with natural bone armor covering his torso and limbs. His species had evolved from apex predators, and even their youngest warriors could tear through steel with their bare hands. Facing off against a soft, small human seemed almost unfair. Almost. Sergeant Thompson stepped into the marked combat circle. At barely 2 meters tall, and lacking any visible natural weapons, he looked like a child standing next to Drexel. "Standard Academy. Rules," Commander Vex announced, though his voice carried a note of uncertainty. "First to achieve submission or incapacitation wins." The two combatants circled each other. Drexel moved with the confidence of a predator who'd never met prey capable of meaningful resistance. Thompson moved like water, fluid and alert. Drexel lunged forward with lightning speed, expecting to end the match in seconds. What happened next defied every assumption the alien cadets had about physical combat. Thompson didn't meet force with force. Instead, he seemed to flow around Drexel's attack, using the larger being's momentum against him. In a movement too fast for most eyes to follow, the human grabbed, twisted, and suddenly Drexel was airborne. The 3-meter-tall warrior crashed to the gymnasium floor with a sound like thunder. Before Drexel could recover, Thompson had secured what humans called a submission hold. The alien warrior, despite his size and natural armor, found himself completely immobilized by techniques that seemed to treat physics more as suggestions than laws. "Impossible," whispered Cadet Voltan. "Drexel outweighs him by at least 50 kilograms. "Leverage," Private Chang called out, as if reading his thoughts. "Weight means nothing if you understand how to redirect force." Drexel tapped out, his warrior pride thoroughly shattered. "Who's next?" Thompson asked, barely breathing hard. What followed was a systematic dismantling of everything the alien cadets thought they knew about combat. Cadet after cadet stepped forward, confident in their species' natural advantages, only to find themselves outmatched by techniques that seemed to turn their strengths into weaknesses. A Vorthak warrior, whose acidic touch could dissolve most materials, found himself defeated by holds that avoided his dangerous skin entirely. A Zentorian, whose multiple limbs should have provided overwhelming advantage, was tied into what humans cheerfully called a pretzel. But the real shock came when Cadet Nex Silar stepped forward. Silar was Thorvandian, a species known throughout the galaxy for their incredible speed and reflexes. They moved so fast that most other species couldn't even track their movements with naked eyes. In any physical contest, Thorvandians were considered unbeatable. Private Petrov accepted the challenge. "This is suicide," muttered Instructor Kasek. "Thorvandians can move faster than human nervous systems can process." The match began, and Seiler immediately demonstrated why his species was feared. He moved like a blur, striking from multiple angles with speed that created afterimages. And somehow, inexplicably, Petrov was keeping up. More than keeping up, he was predicting Seiler's attacks, positioning himself to counter moves that hadn't been made yet. The human fought like he could see the future, responding to threats before they fully materialized. Within minutes, Seiler lay on the ground, staring at the ceiling in complete bewilderment. "How?" Seiler's voice was barely a whisper. "How did you move that fast?" Petrov extended a hand to help him up. "Pattern recognition. Your species is fast, but you move in predictable sequences. Once we identified the patterns, countering became possible." The implications hit the alien observers like a meteor strike. Humans weren't just capable fighters, they were adaptable in ways that seemed almost supernatural. Commander Vex felt his worldview crumbling like a poorly constructed sand castle. "What else can they do?" As if summoned by his words, Captain Rodriguez stepped forward. "We'd like to demonstrate tactical problem-solving under pressure." "What kind of tactical problem-solving?" Rodriguez smiled that unsettling predator smile again. "Urban warfare scenarios, hostage rescue, asymmetric combat situations." The training holodeck was the Academy's pride, a fully immersive simulation system capable of creating any combat environment imaginable. It had been designed to challenge the most advanced military minds in the galaxy. The scenario loaded: a terrorist situation in a crowded space station. Hostages scattered throughout multiple levels. Heavily armed enemies with superior firepower and defensive positions. Standard Academy doctrine called for overwhelming force and careful coordination between multiple specialized units. The humans requested to attempt the scenario with just their 5-person team. "This is madness," Instructor Varn muttered as the simulation began. "The recommended force for this scenario is at least 30 specialists." The humans entered the virtual environment and immediately did something that shocked every observer. They split up. In defiance of every tactical principle taught at the Academy, the 5 humans scattered in different directions, moving through the hostile environment like smoke through a ventilation system. "They're violating basic unit cohesion protocols," observed Cadet Thorndale. "They'll be picked off individually." But they weren't. Private Williams found a sniper position that shouldn't have existed, providing overwatch from angles the simulation designers never intended. Sergeant Thompson became a ghost, infiltrating enemy positions through routes that required impossible flexibility and timing. Captain Rodriguez didn't just command. She became the tactical center of a web of destruction that flowed around enemy defenses like water around stone. Most shocking of all, they communicated through methods that the Academy's sensors couldn't detect. No radio chatter, no digital signals, just an almost telepathic coordination that allowed them to execute complex maneuvers flawlessly. Hostages were extracted with surgical precision. Enemy forces found themselves outflanked by opponents who seemed to materialize from nowhere. What should have been a grinding siege became a rapid, devastating assault that left simulated terrorists wondering what had hit them. Final time: 11 minutes, 37 seconds. 0 casualties. The previous Academy record had been 43 minutes with acceptable losses. Commander Vex stared at the results display, his mind refusing to process what he was seeing. "Run it again." "Sir?" "Run the simulation again. Maximum difficulty." Give them the Catherian Uprising scenario. The Catherian Uprising was the Academy's ultimate challenge, a scenario so complex and brutal that most graduating classes couldn't complete it, even with full resources and unlimited time. It simulated the final battle of the galaxy's most devastating civil war, requiring impossible coordination between ground, air, and space forces. The humans looked at each other and shrugged. "Sure," Rodriguez said. "Sounds fun." What followed broke every rule of warfare the galaxy had ever written. The humans didn't just think outside the box. They pretended the box didn't exist. They used weapons in ways their manufacturers never intended. They turned environmental hazards into tactical advantages. They fought a three-dimensional battle across multiple theaters simultaneously, coordinating actions that should have required armies. Private Chang held off an entire armored division using nothing but improvised explosives and terrain manipulation. Sergeant Thompson infiltrated the enemy command structure and turned their own logistics network against them. Most impossibly, they won. Not just won, they achieved total victory in less than half the time anyone had thought possible. The gymnasium fell silent as the simulation ended, and the humans casually discussed their performance, pointing out minor tactical errors and ways they could improve next time. Cadet Morlane finally found his voice. "What are you people?" Captain Rodriguez looked up, as if surprised by the question. "We're humans. We come from a planet where everything tries to kill you, so we learn to kill it back. We've been practicing warfare for our entire evolutionary history." "But your technology is reliable, maintainable, and effective under any conditions," Private Williams finished. "We don't need computer assistance to aim because we've been throwing rocks at targets for millions of years. We don't need advanced materials because we learned to win with whatever we could find." Sergeant Thompson nodded. "On Earth, the most dangerous predator isn't the one with the biggest claws or the strongest armor. It's the one that can think, adapt, and refuse to give up." The alien cadets exchanged glances, a new understanding dawning in their minds. "You mean," Cadet Seiler said slowly, "your entire species evolved specifically for warfare?" "Not warfare," Rodriguez corrected. "Survival. But on our world, those were pretty much the same thing." Commander Vex stepped into the circle, his earlier arrogance completely gone. "Captain Rodriguez, I owe you an apology. We underestimated your people severely." "No offense." "Taken, Commander. It's a common mistake." "Common?" Rodriguez's smile turned mysterious. "Commander, you've seen our basic infantry training. You haven't seen our special forces, our engineers, or our strategic planners. You definitely haven't seen what we can do when we're actually angry." The implications hung in the air like a sword about to fall. "Are you saying," Vex asked carefully, "that what we witnessed represents standard human military capability?" "Pretty much. We're good soldiers, but we're not exceptional by Earth standards." The alien cadets looked at each other with growing alarm. If these were average humans, what were their elite forces capable of? "Commander," Rodriguez continued, "we came here to learn from you, not to show off. Your energy weapons, your shield technology, your faster-than-light communications, these are incredible advances that could revolutionize human military capabilities. And, in return, we teach you what we've learned about fighting when you don't have any advantages except determination and creativity." Vex nodded slowly. For the first time since the humans arrived, he felt like he was beginning to understand what the Galactic Council had really done. They hadn't just invited primitive aliens to join galactic civilization. They'd recruited a species of natural-born warriors who could teach the galaxy new ways to fight. As the demonstration ended and the crowds dispersed, Cadet Drexel approached Sergeant Thompson. "Thompson," he said, his voice carrying new respect, "would you be willing to teach me some of those techniques?" Thompson grinned. "Sure thing. But I should warn you, human fighting styles require a lot of practice. We don't rely on natural advantages, so everything has to be learned the hard way." "I'm willing to learn." Similar conversations were starting throughout the academy. Alien cadets who'd arrived expecting to laugh at primitive humans were now begging for lessons in primitive combat techniques. Commander Vex watched it all unfold and realized the academy would never be the same. Neither would the galaxy. As Captain Rodriguez passed by his observation post, she stopped and looked up at him. "Commander, there's one more thing you should know." "What's that?" "We volunteered for this assignment. Earth has been watching galactic military doctrine for months, studying your tactics and strategies." Vex felt a chill run through his exoskeleton. "And? We've identified 47 major vulnerabilities in standard galactic defense protocols. Would you like us to show you how to fix them?" The Predator's smile was back, but this time Vex realized it wasn't directed at him. It was directed at anyone foolish enough to threaten the galaxy that humans now called home. The Galactic Military Academy had gained 5 human cadets. The galaxy had gained something far more significant: protectors who didn't know how to quit, couldn't be intimidated, and viewed impossible odds as interesting challenges rather than reasons to surrender. And in the depths of space, other civilizations who might have considered testing the resolve of this new galactic alliance began reconsidering their plans. After all, who wanted to fight a species that had turned survival itself into an art form? The humans had arrived, and everything had changed.